When I was very young, my father committed suicide by burning down our family home whilst he was inside the building. So growing up, I mostly grew up with my two sisters and my mum. But my mum tried to be the mother and the father for us. So she tried to kind of make up for the absence of a father and provided us with everything we needed, all the affection, all the material things that we needed. I was with this person for about 3 years. This was a person that I thought I was going to marry. We'd even started making plans, wedding plans. We talked about our future. And I spent a lot of my time, I really invested a lot in the relationship, only to find out that he had betrayed me. And he hadn't betrayed me once, it was several times. So that was really, really hard to take in. And when that happened, I was not only confused, but I was really kind of questioning, about the other woman, like why did he do that to me? Why did he betray me with her? What did she have that I didn't have? What did he see in her that he couldn't find in me? Why would he, make all this effort to pursue me, to have this relationship with me, only to go and do that? And it did make me question what was wrong with myself quite a lot. I was just down, even going to work, even though I really enjoyed my job at the time, I was demotivated at work. I couldn't help but think about it, sometimes on the train. I'd have moments where I was okay, and then I would just think about it again, and I would be down. At the time, to be honest, I never felt like I would get past that moment. I'd never felt like I would overcome that or get over it. It was just such a heavy feeling, and I remember thinking, how am I going to be happy? Am I ever going to be able to have a relationship and trust somebody? I did have some really good friends and some really positive women around me, and there was a time that we took to kind of go on a break together, and we spent a lot of quality time together. And during that time, I had their positivity, I had their good advice, and just being around them and doing things with them, it kind of made me realize, it made me remember in a way who I was and the good things about me and all the potential that I had. Today, I'm a successful businesswoman. I do have my own business. It's going really, really well. I love every moment of working on my business. It's just something I'm really passionate about. And I have a team of people working with me, and we just enjoy being creative and, helping other people in the community through what we do. We really love it. I'm also happily married today to a wonderful man. I have a great family, a great group of friends. For me, when I went through this whole thing of the betrayal, although at the time it was really difficult, I came to a point where I wanted to take this. I mean, there was nothing I could do to change it, to turn back the hands of time and make it not happen. And when I realized that, I thought, well, what I can either do is I can either feel sorry for myself for the rest of my life, or I can take this experience and make something positive of it and be able to help others. You have to get to a point where you look at yourself and you remember and you realize all the good things that you have about yourself. You have to regain your value, and only you can do that for yourself. There's no one who can give you your value. You have to find it within yourself. And once you find it within yourself, you are able to not only overcome, but you will be able to help other people with that as well.
Hello, a very good evening. Welcome to another show, another program of Finding Answers. Today we're talking about forgiveness, how difficult forgiveness is. You can't even say that for some people it's easy, some people it's difficult. Because forgiving is difficult, always hard, especially when you are offended, you are abused, you are hurt by someone. It's extremely difficult. Now, when you speak about forgiveness, you also have to speak about common sense. Let me explain why. Because common sense would tell you that it makes sense to forgive. It's an intelligent decision to forgive. Common sense would tell you that if you let hurt go, if you let pain go, if you let hate go, you are the one who will benefit from that. One thing is common sense, and another thing is actually doing it. Have you ever received an advice where you said to yourself, I knew that. That's pretty obvious. That's pretty, it's common sense. But just because it's obvious, it doesn't mean that you did it, right? And that's what forgiveness is for many people. Actually, usually we show you the street questions a bit later in the program, but I want you to watch what the people in London have to say about forgiveness right now at the beginning, because I want to make a very interesting point. Let's see what the people in London have to say about how easy or how difficult it is to forgive.
This is a very tricky one because
Today's topic is based on forgiveness. How hard has it been for you to forgive? Today we're going to find out the thoughts and opinions of the people here on the streets of London. Does forgiving your enemies make you a weaker or stronger person?
I think it makes you a stronger person because it means you can understand where your enemy is coming from and their point of view, and to get on equal ground and just empathy. Yeah, getting past that, I think that makes you a stronger person, just self-awareness and what they were thinking.
I think it makes you a stronger person, because I think it's really hard to forgive someone when you feel you've been hurt or betrayed, so it takes a lot of strength and courage to sort of overcome that and forgive the person.
Well, it has to make you stronger. I mean, people have different enemies for different reasons. I mean, some choose their enemies, others have enemies that they happen to meet basically because of bad luck or circumstances. But in the end, I think that if you're going to move forward in life positively, if you're going to release good energy to the world, if you're going to be able to make the right decisions, if you're not going to want to worry too much about what's happened to you in the past and move on to the future, then the only way is to forgive your enemies.
I think it makes you a stronger person. As Oscar Wilde once said, forgive your enemies, nothing annoys them so much.
Is there a limit to a number of times you should forgive?
I don't think there's a limit to the number of times you should forgive, but I also think it depends on the circumstances. But I think it's a very personal thing. If you want to forgive someone, that's your prerogative too, and as long as you don't hurt yourself too much in the process, I think there's no limit to it.
probably yes. Just to protect yourself, sometimes you probably do need to, you forgive someone a certain number of times, and then at a certain point you sort of have to move on and look for better people in your life to protect yourself.
I'm sure you'll agree at home that, forgiving is the right thing to do. Everyone in the street seems to say so. Now, if we were to ask those same people, are you able to forgive people that have hurt you in the past? Then the answers would probably be different, right? So forgiving is a matter of common sense. It's the right thing to do. But we should ask a different question. Can you forgive? Are you able to forgive? Are you right now someone who, when you tend to hate someone, it's like when you think of that person, it's like your heart tightens up. It's like you have this knot on your chest, on your throat. Just thinking of that person makes you feel sick. So actually, I have Michael here with me. How are you, Michael?
All right, well, thank you, James.
You were talking about, you were looking into this, and you were saying that there are health benefits to forgiving.
Yes, there are. Good evening, everyone. There are health benefits. There have been studies that have been done that show there are health benefits. I found 5. I'm sure there's more to forgiving. I don't know if you want to...
Please, yeah.
Now, yeah?
Yes, you didn't make these 5 up, right?
No, not at all. The first one is that it lowers stress levels. Number 2, keeps the heart healthy.
I would agree with that, and sorry to cut in on you, but we were saying earlier that when you hate someone, just thinking of that person makes your heart feel really tight. Mm-hmm. It's like you have this knot there in your chest. So I would agree with that 100%.
Number 3, it lowers pain. Mm-hmm. Obviously, I don't know what that does, the bloodstream or something like that. Mm-hmm. Lowers blood pressure as well. And finally, and this is an eye-opener for me as well and some other people, it extends your life. You live longer when you learn to forgive. Mm-hmm. So they're the health benefits. I'm sure there are lots more as well.
Right. So, perhaps you're watching us now and you say, James, it's really difficult for me to forgive. There is someone who has hurt me and I can't forgive this person. I heard a story some time ago of this man, Michael, who started a company with his friend, with his best friend. They're starting a started a company from scratch. And, you know, after a couple of years, the company was doing really well, really, really, really well. And because one of them wasn't as savvy as the other one, you know, one of the friends came to the other friend, the partner, one day with some papers and said, oh, this is just some papers for us to open a new account and this, and got the friend to sign. The friend trusted the other one so much that he, you know, didn't even check the papers. The papers were signed, and when he knew, like a couple of weeks later, he had just signed the company to his friend, over to his friend. So he was left with nothing.
Yeah.
That was that's difficult to forgive that, right?
Yeah, in that situation and others, you know, that's what you said. It's easy to say, forgive people.
On paper, you know, you have to forgive.
Exactly, but when you're actually in a situation, when you are hurt, when you are betrayed, when someone does something to you, it's a lot difficult to forgive people. And like I just covered here, there are health benefits, but there are also other benefits in the long term that will help you to move on in life. If you don't forgive, you're going to be stuck. So it's important that we do forgive. We're going to cover that tonight.
So the question is there something that you say, look, you know, this you can't forgive? I mean, you know, you can forgive most things, but not this. You know, there's these few things that there's no chance, no way that you could forgive someone who does something like that to you. Let us know. Also, if you find it difficult to forgive, you've always wanted to, but you just don't know how to forgive someone, and you want to talk to us, to tell us what you think, to ask for help, for advice, maybe we can speak to you here and tell you live on air what you can do to forgive. Then the number to speak to us is 020-7686-6300. That's 020-7686-6300. Or send us an email to help@findinganswers.tv. Now, just before we go to the break, I want to leave you with a quote, if I'm not mistaken, by William Shakespeare. He said that hating someone is like drinking poison and hoping for the other person to die. If I'm not mistaken, it was William Shakespeare who said this. If I'm wrong, send me an email, tell me I'm wrong and tell me who said it, but I'm pretty sure it was him. Hating someone is like drinking poison and hoping that the other one will die. That's a very strong statement. I'll see you after the break.
So I'm here at the place where it's believed that Jesus was crucified, in the tomb, the garden tomb where we are here right now. And we know what he died for. When he died on the cross on Good Friday, he carried with him our infirmities, all our problems, so that we do not need to carry it again. He died on Friday, he resurrected on Sunday, and by our faith in him, we can be free from any problem that this world brings to us. So I want to invite all of you to touch a piece of this mantle here. In all our UCKGs there in the United Kingdom, we are going to touch a piece of this mantle here, representing the mantle of Jesus. Like the woman who came from far, she had tried absolutely everything, doctors, physicians, no one could help her, but she said, if I just touch the hem of his garment, I will be healed. And she was healed.
There was lots of things I can think about in my life where I didn't value myself, but when I look at the root of it, it was definitely from my childhood. You know, when I think about at 7 years old, you know, someone who you apparently should trust, wanting to show his private parts, and as a child not understanding that this is not a game. And, you know, I think that when I think about it now, it really made me devalue myself. It really made me deeply hurt inside when I understood as an adult. I had so many opportunities as a young woman. You know, I had the opportunity to do modeling, which I did for a while. I had the opportunity to become an athlete, which I did for a while. But it's almost as if I didn't value any of these opportunities that came to me. And imagine what sense does this make to have good opportunities and exchange them for negative things. When I look back, it doesn't make any sense. But now I understand it was because I didn't value myself. I didn't understand what valuing yourself was. You know, I remember when I picked my first love to be my boyfriend. I can imagine my family, my parents, my sisters, they thought, oh my gosh, why are you picking this type of person to be your partner? Why are you picking this person to be the one to fall in love with? He's a criminal, for goodness sake. It's almost like I had forgotten how to smile as I do today. People see me smiling all the time, but I had forgotten what smiling is about. What is it to feel happy and loved inside? And it made me feel sad. I can remember, honestly, times when there was a point in my life where I would go to my bed and I would cry myself to sleep. So, you know, I thank God today that I'm not that person anymore. I thank God that I have changed. I thank God that I have learned to value myself. My husband, I thank God that he's a man who values me. Because I think to value yourself, for someone to value you, you have to value yourself first. If you expect someone to value you, how would I expect my husband to value me if I don't value myself? So I value myself now. And because of that, those around me, my friends, my family, my children, my husband, they value me too. It's really, really the most important to value what you have, to value the life that you have, the woman that you have. But first of all, the value has to start with yourself. You women out there, you have to love yourself. And if you love yourself, you will never, ever allow anyone to abuse you. You will never allow anyone to betray you and tell you that it's okay, it's just another woman. You will love yourself. And even if it means walking away, that's what you have to do.
In a few moments, I will introduce someone who's here in the studio with me now, who had to swallow that bitter pill called forgiveness. But the thing, you know, that sometimes the pill that tastes the more bitter is the one that's the best for you, is the one that heals you the quickest, right? We're going to introduce you to this person in just a few moments. First, I want to show you a video of a real-life story of someone who had to forgive. This person who is not even from a particular church. I believe she believes in God, but just have a look at her story.
January 20th, 2005. Started out as a pretty normal day. I was a high school senior. I was concerned with applying to schools and getting into college. I was on my way home to have dinner with my family. I was hit by a drunk driver. He ran through an intersection and hit my car on my driver's side door. So when the car spun around and flipped 3 times, it landed on its roof in a ditch, and the glass shattered, and the airbag is what held me in place. I was held in place between my seatbelt and the airbag. I was transported to 3 different hospitals within the first 12 hours. The pain and emotion involved in the healing process is something that I'll never forget. Every time I looked in the mirror, I saw pieces of glass and scars that were still lodged in my face, and I wouldn't go anywhere without makeup on. I constantly tried to cover it up and hide, and I hated the man who hit me. He ruined my life, and I hated him. I didn't think that I would ever be able to forgive him for that. And instead of hating the man who hit me, I started to pray for him. And I feel like The power of forgiveness and the power of prayer together is what made me transform. And today the scars are still there and the pieces of glass are still lodged in my face, but today they're daily reminders of love and healing and forgiveness.
Forgiveness is an act of strength. If you are filled with anger and resentment, I am sure that these words will probably seem like nonsense to you. But as time goes by and the pain diminishes, you will come to the conclusion that it takes strength to forgive. Strength that you have.
Strength that you have, indeed. You know, forgiving is tough, but you can do it. And you are the one who will benefit from that the most. So I want to introduce you now to Pauly, who's here with me. How are you, Pauly?
Fine, thank you.
You okay?
Yeah.
Tell us about what happened to you that eventually you had to struggle, fight in order to forgive someone. Tell us about your life story.
Basically, from a very young age, I was sexually abused. And because of this abuse, which I kept inside of me, I didn't tell anyone, I didn't let my family know, no one knew about it. It was something that was eating me up. So I started to smoke weed from a really young age. I started to go out, I would just go out. From about the age of 12, 13, I would go out recklessly and I wouldn't come back home for 3-4 nights.
When you say you were abused, how old were you at that time?
It started from the age of 9, it was 9 to 14.
So that happened for over a period of years. So when you say abused, you mean what, sexually abused?
Yeah.
Okay. Is that by like a person was close to you, a family friend?
Yeah, he was an uncle to me.
Okay. So that you never told anyone about that?
No, because he would tell me that no one would believe me. People would say I'm making it up because he had his own family. So obviously I believed that as well. And the way my family was at the time, my dad was drinking really heavily, so I thought he wouldn't believe me. Yeah.
So from 9 to 14, that happened to you for about 5 years. How did that make you feel?
Because of that, it was that I hated being at home because the first time it happened was at home. Most of the time it happened in my house. So I hated being at home. I started to blame my dad as well because I saw it as if he didn't bring this person to the house, then it wouldn't have happened to me. I started to smoke weed. I would always be high. This affected my education. I wouldn't go to school all the time. I wouldn't do anything but smoke weed. And yeah.
So how did you feel towards him? I mean, he was doing this to you. He was, taking advantage of you, hurting you. What did you feel towards him?
I hated him. What made it worse was when I turned 15, I started to cut myself. And because of the cutting myself, and I started to have flashbacks of the abuse. So I would see the abuse, I would feel, even though it wasn't happening, but in my mind it would be happening. So I had to be taken away from my family. I had to go to a care home, and then after I had to go to a mental hospital.
Why did they take you away from your family? Because you were cutting yourself?
Yeah.
Who found out about this?
I spoke to my social worker about the abuse, and then because of the court case, I had to go to the doctors, and then that's when the doctors saw all my scars, and then they said I was at risk at myself, and I had to be looked after all the time.
And you were even put into a mental hospital. How long were you there for?
5 months.
So this one thing that was happening, the abuse, which happened over a period of 5 years, several times, it turned your life completely upside down, right? It messed up your life completely. So, I mean, on paper, you had a reason to hate this person. I believe few people would condemn you for hating someone. They would probably say that you're right in hating him. And how bad was that hate? How much did you hate him?
I really hated him because after coming out of hospital, it was like everything changed. I didn't have no more friends. My friends wasn't there anymore because I've been away for about 1 year. So I didn't have no friends. I had to start my life all over again. I didn't go to school. I missed out 1 year in school. So it was like I was way behind most people in my age was. On top of that, whenever I looked at myself, I would see the scars which I caused to myself, which I blamed him as well. And when my family found out about the abuse, it was like it broke my family apart. There was so much problems at home, so many arguments, and it was like I blamed him for what happened. So even though he was guilty, even though he went to prison, I still blamed him, and I still felt like, and in a way I started to blame myself as well.
So he actually went to prison?
Yeah.
Did you, when he was arrested, when he was tried and then taken to prison, did you feel a sense of justice? Did you feel justice had been done? Did you feel at peace, or still you didn't have peace?
I still didn't have peace. Because I remember he wrote a letter during the trial period, and he sent it. And I didn't ever want to read that letter. I didn't ever want anything to do with that letter. Yeah.
So a lot of people think that if someone hurts them or does something really bad towards them, like it happened to you, they think that if that person goes to prison for 10 years, for 20 years, whatever it is, that justice has been done. In a way, yes, it has. But if in your case, he didn't bring you peace.
No, because I felt like he took away my childhood. He took away the times that I was supposed to be having fun with my friends. I didn't have fun. I had to grow up much more mature than I was. It was like I didn't enjoy my life when I should have.
So that actually messed up with everything in your life, right? You started smoking weed, you said, from when you were quite young. You went to a mental hospital for your own protection. It has to be said, for your own protection, because at that point you were hurting yourself. Your family, you're going to talk about your family in just a moment, how it was, but it messed up your family as well, right? So we're going to talk to you about your family in just a moment. I think we have a caller on the line. Hi, good evening.
Hi, yeah.
Hi, who am I speaking to?
Richard.
Richard, what do you have to say about forgiveness? Do you have an experience to do with this?
I do.
Go ahead, tell us.
I wanted to speak about my relationship with me and my dad. I've never had one in my life because I never met him. So I'm 19 years old and I've never seen my dad or met him. And for me, that really hurt me because there's a lot of people I grew up with and I saw them with their dads and I felt neglected. And then I used to blame him for all the issues I used to go through, all the problems I used to cause. And not only just that, my mom as well. I grew up believing that my mom wasn't my mom. And this was for a long period of time. Even though she was looking after me, she was doing all that she can.
Right.
I grew up believing that she wasn't my mom. And
tell me something, Richard, sorry to cut in on you. If you were to describe the feeling you had towards your dad, who you've never met, what did you feel towards him?
I like rage because.
But how could you feel rage against someone you've never met? If you've never met him, how could you feel this rage against him?
Exactly, and that's the point. And when I'm thinking back right now, how can I feel this way? But the reason why I felt this way because I used to blame all the issues I used to go through on him. I used to say, I did this because of him. If he was here, he would have showed me how to do this. My life is like that because of him. I used to blame everything on him.
Right, because, I mean, common sense would say that if you don't know someone, you can't hate them because you don't know them. But you had this immense rage against someone you didn't even know, your dad. Tell me something, did you manage to forgive him?
I did.
And when you forgave him, how did you feel better? Did you feel worse? Has your life changed?
It has changed because I before plotted in my heart, I was gonna, whenever I see him, I will not speak to him. I will either beat him up or I'll kill him. And it's crazy because I've never seen him, I've spoken with him on the phone, but it was just like a voice. And when we do speak, he will say that, I promise I'll come and see you. And I'll believe him. And when he doesn't fulfill, that anger became more.
So how has your life been since you forgave him?
Much better, because before I used to dwell on my issues. So when I make a mistake, I'll be like, because of him. But when I do make a mistake, I'm like, okay, it was my fault. Now I need to move on. How can I fix it? So I feel more happier. Now I'm even striving to speak to him more to even eventually, get to me.
Good. So you think it was the right thing to do?
It is. I personally is because I've never met him, but he was living rent-free in my mind. But now that, I don't have any grudges over him, I feel free. I'm different.
That's great. And actually that term is a very, very great term, that you haven't met someone, but he was living rent-free in your mind. That's something very, very powerful. It's amazing what you said because he was taking over your mind. So Richard, thank you very much for calling, okay?
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Pauly, now what did that do to your family? I mean, how did your family become after they found out your uncle had done that to you for 5 years?
Because my dad was drinking at the time anyway, so his drinking became even worse. And because of this, it was like my mom was blaming him as well. So it was like I was blaming him, my mom was blaming him, and it was like it got to a point where they almost got divorced. So they would sleep in separate rooms, they wouldn't talk. It was like everything just became separate.
After the break, I want you to tell us why you got to the point of blaming yourself, because you were saying you actually got to the point of saying it's my fault, and that should never have happened. You were a little girl, right? But I want you to talk to me about that, because I'm sure a lot of people have that same feeling from what we hear, people who go through those same experiences. I think we have another call before we go to the break. Do we have another call? Hi, good evening. Hello, good evening.
Hello.
Hi, who am I speaking to?
Hi, my name is Oyen.
Oyen, what do you have to say about forgiveness? Hi, Oyen.
I was watching the beginning, you know, when people was talking about like forgiveness makes you stronger. Before, I used to think for you to forgive someone will make you weaker, that you've given the person an upper hand or the power to think that they have something over you once you have forgiven them. So when I came, I thought it was almost impossible for me to forgive. Because I felt weak forgiving. But then when I learned that me not forgiving was hurting me even more, and me not forgiving that person, the person didn't really even care whether I forgiven them or not. So me not forgiving wasn't hurting the person, because people think that if they're not forgiving someone, they're hurting that person. But in fact, it's not hurting that person, it's hurting yourself. And then after a while, I thought that I had forgiven because I've not seen the person in a long time. But then when I was faced with the challenge of actually going to see the person, I couldn't do it. And then it made me realize that sometimes it's so easy for someone to say they have forgiven someone, but they have not seen them or they're not around them. So they say, yeah, I've forgiven them, I've forgotten everything. But when they're in the same room as the person, they can't be in the same place. They feel angry, they feel agitated, which I felt. And that's when I realized that I didn't truly forgive. When I truly forgive was when I was able to be in the same room, like, because it was with my dad, I was able to be in the same room as him, talk to him without being angry or feeling like some kind of, like the person before was saying rage or to do something bad. I felt calm and to speak to him and tell him how I felt and open up to him about everything that happened.
And what was it that you felt towards your dad?
I was very angry towards him because I saw him do so many things towards my mom, and we ended up hating each other.
So you hated him?
I hated him with a passion where...
For how long did you hate him?
Pardon?
For how long did you hate him?
I hated him from 2005 to 2012.
So quite a few years, right?
For 7 years, and we was living in the same house as well, and then my parents separated.
So you lived in the same house, but even though you were in the same house, you hated him. Have you forgiven him?
For a long time. Yes, I have forgiven him.
How has your life gotten better or worse since you forgave him?
My life has gotten so much better because I no longer hold that anger inside of me anymore.
Are you free? Look at me, Oyen. Can you see me in your TV?
Yes.
Okay. Tell me something. Are you happy now that you forgave your dad?
I'm more than happy.
Do you feel like you've lost something because you forgave him?
No. I feel like I gained more.
But you lost something. You lost something. You lost that weight that you carried on your shoulders.
Yeah.
Right? Don't you feel much lighter after you've forgiven him?
So much.
That's great. All right, Oyen, thank you so much for calling us. Okay? Thank you. Now, after the break, we're going to come back to see why Pauly got to the point of thinking that it was her fault that she was abused from 9 years old to 14 years old. Ridiculous, right? You would think that doesn't make any sense. And yet that's how she felt. We'll see why, and we will see how she managed to forgive her aggressor. We'll be right back.
many more people coming, and we have what? Maybe 2,000 to 3,000 people already, more than that. And we're going to have to start very soon because otherwise the queue is going to be too long, but we're pretty happy.
As the book says, nothing to lose and there is nothing to hide. Everybody needs to know. And I think this is the right time that people should know the truth about this great man of God, Bishop Macedo, his background, where he's coming from, and what is UCKG Help Center all about.
I expect it to be just as good as the first book, because the first book was really, really good. And from it, I learned a lot about Bishop Macedo. Like, you go to the church and stuff, but you don't really understand the struggles that he went through. From reading the book, you understand it more, and you understand deeper where the UCKG came from.
It is the book of Acts, which means the story of someone who, through faith, managed to not only turn his life around, but the life of many, many other people around.
Welcome back. If a 9-year-old girl is abused, you would never think that it was her fault. No matter what, you wouldn't have thought that it was her fault. And yet, Pauly, who's here with us, who suffered abuse at the hands of her aggressor for 5 years, got to the point of thinking it was her fault. Why, Pauly? Why did you think that?
Because it happened to me, I started to think that maybe there was something wrong with me for him to do that to me, because there were many other children, there were many other younger people, but why did he choose me? So I started to think, also because I started to give myself away to Guy when I got older, it was like sort of thing, maybe it's the way I spoke to him, maybe it was the way I was acting when he was in the house, maybe it was the way I was speaking to him, if that makes sense.
But you see, what you're saying, it doesn't make any sense, right? But I understand why you would think like this, because a person starts to think, why me? Why did it happen to me and not to someone else? And even, you could say whatever excuse a person has for that happening, but you were 9 and he was an adult, so there was no excuse. Now, you got to the point of blaming yourself. How did you see relationships? How did you see men? Because you said you started giving yourself easily to guys. Why? Did you start to see relationships in a different way after that happened to you?
I didn't really value relationship. I just thought guys were just there because they wanted one thing. So it was like, why not make it easy for them? If that makes sense? Yeah.
So you thought that's all guys think about, so, I might as well just be with them.
Yeah.
And did you ever feel loved? Did you ever feel happy in those relationships?
No, because because love or happiness wasn't something that I've experienced, if that makes sense. Because I didn't grow up with my dad. I grew up with my grandma without my dad. I didn't see my dad until I was like 9. So I've never experienced love, so it was just, yeah, okay.
And a lot of people would say that what you were doing is normal for a teenage girl, to go out and experiment and so on. But there was a reason why you were doing that. You were doing that because you got to the point of not even valuing yourself. Because if you were blaming yourself, then you didn't value yourself very much, right? So there was a reason behind it. Tell me something, when did you find the need, when did you see that you had the need to forgive him?
It was when I came to the church. To be honest, I thought I'd forgiven him. When I came, I didn't think, oh, I hate him. I thought I forgot about it. But it was like when I started to come and I spoke to an advisor, and it was like, oh, I couldn't really talk about it. For me to sit down and talk about the abuse, it was really hard for me to do.
Like you're doing now, right?
Yeah. Even when I went to court, it was so hard that even the judge had to stop every 5 minutes, said, do you want a break? Do you want a break? And I've never spoke about the whole story until when I managed to forgive. That makes sense. So I was talking to an advisor and I started to attend regularly, and then through that I started to learn that I had a grudge against, I had something inside of me that I had to let go, and that was it.
Now, what did you do to forgive? I imagine it must have been really hard, right? I mean, everyone would say, you know, you need to forgive. It's important you forgive. We know, but it must have been really hard, right? Was it hard or easy for you?
It was hard.
What did you do? What was the secret?
I listened and I started to, because it was hurting me, I realized that I was the one hurting. The more I held on to it, the more I was hurting, and the more my life wasn't getting better, if that makes sense. It was like it went from bad to worse, so nothing was changing in my life. So it was like me holding on to this abuse, because he was already in prison. He's already there in prison. What can I do? There's nothing I can do. If I was holding on to him, whenever I thought about it, it was hurting me. Whenever people spoke about it, it was hurting me. So I started to listen to the advisor when I came to the church, and then I started to take part in different things in the church. Yeah.
And when you managed to forgive him, what difference did that make inside of you and in your state of mind? How did that help you to change, to be happier?
Yeah, it helps me a lot because I stopped, like I can talk about it easily. Now, before, whenever it will be spoken about in my family or anyone will mention it, I used to hate it. It used to make me really angry. I would walk away or I'll be really angry. But it's like now, if it gets mentioned, it doesn't really affect me. Nothing changes. I don't feel a pain in my heart. And I managed to read the letter that he sent me, which I couldn't do for many years. Yeah.
So you completely forgave him. What's your advice to someone who's watching us now and knows that they have to forgive, but they can't? They say, look, I know I need to, I know it's going to be good if I forgive this person, but I just can't. What's your advice to them?
They need to, first of all, admit to themselves that there's something that they're holding on. Because sometimes it's easy to say, and sometimes people say, oh, it's like, he doesn't deserve my forgiveness. It's like, I shouldn't forgive him. He deserves my anger, but it's hurting you more than it's hurting the person, because the person, if, let's say, in my case, he was already in prison, I was the one being hurt. So nothing was changing. The more I was hating on him, he wasn't getting an extra time in prison or anything like that. It was just me, and it was something that I had to deal with, and that's something that the person has to deal with.
Yeah, like you said, the truth is that if you hate someone, the person feels no difference. If you say, look, I'm going to hate him even 10 times more, you know, he won't lose any sleep over it, right? The one person who's being hurt is you, right? You're the one being hurt. And if you think about it, forgiving someone is an intelligent decision, okay? If someone says, well, the one who forgives someone who hurts them, they're not very intelligent. Actually, they are very intelligent because they are looking after, like Michael said in the beginning, they're looking after even their health. And you know, Jesus taught us to pray for our enemies. Have you noticed that? He taught us to pray for those who hurt us. And when someone said, Master, how many times should we forgive those who hurt us? And Jesus said, 70 times 7. He asked a question, 70 times 7. He wasn't saying we should only forgive 70 times 7. He was saying you have to forgive for as long as it takes, as many times as it takes. If you have to forgive the person 1,000,000 times, then you do. But you don't let that get to you. Okay? I have another video, another very powerful video of someone who managed to forgive, and two of the people who were there in that court scene didn't forgive. I want you to see how powerful this video is. Straight away from this video, we're going to go to a break, and then we'll come back with the letter of the day.
On our TV, computer, and mobile screens, we watch stories of forgiveness that touch our hearts. But it's not us. When it comes to you, do you forgive? Here are a few reasons why forgiving benefits you.
Gary Ridgway sat there stone-faced as victims' relatives damned him and mocked him.
He's an animal. I wish for him to have a long, suffering, cruel death. He's gonna go to hell, and that's where he belongs.
But then the emotionless facade finally cracked when the father of one of his victims appeared to surprise him with a dose of human kindness.
Mr. Ridgway, there are people here that hate you. I'm not one of them. You've made it difficult to live up to what I believe, and that is what God says to do, and that's to forgive. You are forgiven, sir.
If you ask me, there isn't one human being in the world who hasn't been hurt or injured emotionally by someone they knew or someone they didn't know. It's not that we can't forgive, it's more that we don't want to. But that's okay. There's nothing wrong with this, because forgiveness is your decision. It's in your hands. We need to get a better understanding of why we should do so and how this will act to benefit us. In all, it's your decision. The power is in your hands.
Before we go for the mail of the day, the letter of the day, I think we have another caller on the line. Hi, good evening.
Good evening.
Hi, who am I speaking to?
Emma.
Emma. What do you want to say about forgiveness, Emma?
I just wanted to say, it was really interesting that Pauly spoke about forgiving herself.
Mm-hmm.
Because for me personally, that's one of the hardest things. That was one of the hardest things for me, not forgiving others, but forgiving myself for the things that I had done in the past.
Right.
Especially as I used to really bully people and make people's lives quite bad. So although those people forgave me, it took a lot for me to forgive myself and to let go of the things that I had done.
That's interesting because we didn't really cover that point. Usually when we think about forgiveness, we think about forgiving those who have hurt us. Yeah. And for you, the most difficult thing was to forgive yourself for the things that you have done, right?
Yeah.
Okay, but you managed to do that?
Yes, I did.
That's great. Okay, thank you very much for your call.
Thank you.
And let me tell you that when you ask for forgiveness, for example, from God, for Him to forgive you from whatever you've done wrong, He forgives you. And then, of course, you have to believe that He forgives you. You have to believe that He, wiped away your mistakes, your sins, and that you have the privilege of starting afresh, right? Hi, Kimberly, how are you?
I'm good, thank you.
You okay? You have the mail of the day?
Yes, I do.
Go ahead, please.
Okay, good evening all. And the mail of the day is, hello, Finding Answers. I wanted to ask if the faith that I hear about on your program could help me. Growing up, I lived with my extended family. From 8 to 14, I was bullied and beaten up by my uncle. So much that a few times I even slept on night buses because I was fed up and so scared to go back home. I am 19 years old now, and after gone through care homes, fostering and going back into education, I find myself still having violent outbursts like my uncle did to me. I hated the way he treated me, so I want more than anything not to be the man he was. But that's what I see happening, Jesse.
Okay, Jesse, I just want to, two things. First of all, Pauly was saying that the person who abused her is now in jail. And that's a good thing. And I'll tell you why. Because forgiving someone doesn't mean that if the person broke the law, they shouldn't pay for that. If someone abuses another person, and then, the victim says, look, I forgive you. That's not enough. Because if that person doesn't pay for what they've done, then there will be, a danger to others. So if there is abuse, then, the right measures need to be taken in the eyes of the law to deal with that. But forgiveness is something else, and I'll tell you why. You were saying that you are finding yourself being violent, having violent outbursts, pretty much like, I think, your dad or your uncle, don't know, that you mentioned. And I'll tell you something, unless you are able to let that go, unless you are able to forgive, you're going to struggle with that for the rest of your life. Because anger comes from somewhere. So chances are that if you don't let that hate, that anger go from what stems from what you went through in your family, unfortunately you're going to be carrying that on in your life. Remember that forgiving, it's always in your best interest. That's very important. Okay? Michael, have you ever had to forgive someone for something really hard that was done against you?
Yes, nothing very serious, nothing very bad, but yes, I had to learn to forgive maybe myself more than anything else,
So
as that caller said.
Forgiving yourself as well, that's something I didn't think about earlier.
Yeah. Sometimes the hardest thing to do is to forgive yourself, because people beat themselves up over what they've done, maybe to themselves or to other people. And so it's hard to forgive yourself and move on.
Yeah.
And I was listening to what the callers and everyone else was saying. I remember a documentary that I saw, and it was about a girl who was abused, and this man was caught and put in prison. And while he was in prison, she held this anger against him, but he died in prison. And then she said that, you know, because he died, I had no control over him anymore. He robbed me of my innocence. He took away my virginity, whatever it was. I had control over him when I kept that grudge, that feeling against him. But when he died, it's like he cheated me out of, I was in control of having that feeling against him. So that's quite a strange feeling. This is quite a strange thing to understand, but there are people that think that because they hold that grudge or that feeling against someone, they're in control, and in fact they're not in control. That person has control over them.
Yeah, they're completely out of control.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly.
You know, if you were to think of if there's any benefit to not forgiving someone, even one, if you say, look, James, there must be one benefit of holding a grudge, holding hatred or anger towards someone. And the thing is, you know, you won't find one. Let me know, write me a letter and send it via registered post if you find a good reason to not forgive someone, because the truth is that there isn't. And I tell you something, there is nothing better than the freedom you have from letting your past go. I know it's difficult, it's hard, and sometimes that's where God comes in. Sometimes it's only possible to forgive someone when you ask God for help. And that's why, you know, when Jesus said, Michael, that you should pray for your enemies, there's something very powerful in praying for the people that you hate. And when I say praying for the people that you hate, it's not praying that they die. I'm not saying, my God, strike them with lightning. It's not that, but pray that, you know, that they change from their ways. You know, remember Jesus, when Jesus was on the cross and people were there hurting him, they were beating him up, they were mocking him. Jesus said, Father, forgive them because they don't know what they're doing. And I want you to think of this sentence, Father, forgive them. He wasn't saying, Father, I forgive them. Do you know why? Because he had already forgiven them for Jesus. It wasn't an issue to forgive those people. He had already done it. So he said, Father, forgive them. That's very powerful, right?
You know, don't hold it against them.
Yeah. Jesus, it's like he was saying, look, for me, it's not a problem. I know they don't know what they're doing. But Father, please forgive them, because he had already done it. He had already forgiven it. So, you know, I want to make a prayer for you now. Maybe you want to pray for your enemies. You want to ask God to have mercy on them, to change them. You want to ask God to remove that hatred, that anger you have in your heart. So we're going to talk to him now. And I'm going to give you a few seconds in this prayer for you to pray for your enemies. Like I said, don't pray for them to die, but pray for them to have a long life, for them to repent of what they've done and to change. That's what you should be doing. Let's talk to God.
Prepare now for the moment of prayer.
my Lord and my Father, we want to take these moments to do exactly what you taught us to do. You said that we should pray for our enemies. And at some point in everyone's life, everyone has to decide to forgive or not. Pauly has been through that, I have been through that, Michael also. And I'm sure this person who's praying with me has either gone through that or is going through that right now. So my Lord, I pray that when this person asks and prays on behalf of their enemies, that you hear their prayer. My dear friend, take the next few moments. Even though I'm praying, you can ask God to help you, to forgive those that have hurt you. Perhaps you are now taking part of this prayer and there are people that you can't stand to hear their names. You can't stand to hear the sound of their voice. If you were to see them, like someone said earlier, if they were in the same room as you would walk out. Ask God now to help you, to let that feeling go, for you to forgive those that have hurt you, that have caused you pain. My Lord, in the name of the Lord Jesus, just like in a few moments we will drink this water, let this water wash away all ill feelings, all feelings of pain, of hurt, of hatred, of rage, and let this person know the benefits of being cleansed of this hurt that they have been carrying with them. My friend, when you drink of this water, you will be receiving the power to forgive. In the name of the Father, the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. You may now drink of this water where you are. You know, remember what we said at the beginning of this program. Just because something is common sense, it doesn't mean that you do it. There's a lot of times that we in church, we give advice to people, we pray for people, tell them, look, it's best if you do this, if you follow this advice from the Bible. And many people say, I knew that already. Perhaps when we spoke to you about forgiveness tonight, you thought, I know that. You're not telling me anything new. But just because you know it, it doesn't mean that you're doing it. Perhaps taking this one thing you've learned tonight and practicing it in your life is going to cause a tremendous change. You'll see how light, how free you will feel. Try it. It might just change your life. Until tomorrow, have a wonderful night. May God bless you.